So good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Before we jump into today's presentation, you will receive the presentation slides, and this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Talemetry.com website after today. Please note on your attendee panel that there is a box to ask any questions as they come to you, and we'll answer as many of those questions as we can at the end of the presentation. My name is Carrie Fuqua, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Talemetry. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today, Pamela Stroko. Pamela is the Vice President of HCM Transformation and Thought Leadership at Oracle Corporation and a recognized leader in the talent management arena with over 20 years experience as a practitioner. Over her career, she has developed a deep expertise in all aspects of talent management, focusing on delivering business results by aligning enterprise strategy for building people capability across the organization. She's a seasoned executive coach, having worked with a number of established C-level executives as well as developing leaders. Pamela developed her expertise as a talent leader by serving in senior business and HR roles at R.R. Donnelley & Sons, Deloitte, the Coca-Cola Company, ICI London, and Gap. She has authored numerous implementation tools that drive organizational effectiveness and connect talent management to business performance. So with that, I'd love to hand it over to you, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you everyone on the line for joining us today. I want to talk about recruiting in wild and crazy times, because if you kind of look at what's going on out there, and I take the feedback that I get kind of talking to our customers and prospects and those in the market, it is crazy to try to find the talent you need in this market, get those people to join your company, and get them to stay. So as a sort of representation of wild and crazy, we have our animal friends here giving us their absolute best smiles. So let's talk about the talent market today. By the way, just a few things before we talk about that, about my background. I have been in the HCM world over 20 years. I've been at Gap and Oracle, Coca-Cola, and Deloitte. And one of my specialties over the years has been talent acquisition, and I won an award for that a few years back. I do a lot of work with helping people build compelling cultures where people want to join and where they want to stay. So let's start out talking about this new talent economy. If you look at the data that we're getting from the market right now, it's generally like nothing people have seen in the last couple of decades. And so what we see is that the sign of a healthy economy is how many people have jobs, how many people are getting laid off. One of the more recent markers of how many people are getting laid off tells us that it's at the lowest level that it's been in over 50 years. And if you look at the people changing jobs in today's market, we're seeing unprecedented change. Now, there used to be that category of employee that was happy. They joined your company, they're really happy, they're really engaged. You think that they're going to stay. All the indications they're giving you is that they're going to stay. And in a recent survey by JobVite, this was at the end of 2017, what we learned is those happy people, 85% of them that are in a full-time job today, they're open to a job change. Now, they may not be out there aggressively looking, but they are open to a job change. And so that kind of tells you that most of who's working in your organization could be in some sort of fluid state of changing jobs, looking at opportunities, exploring things just because it landed in their email box. Part of what's driving all of the change is where we are as an economy. By all economic indicators, we are at full employment. And while analysts kind of vacillate a little bit on what constitutes full employment, as an unemployment rate of 4.1%, that is, and it does meet the economist's definition of full employment. Now, if you're unemployed, that figure probably doesn't help you. But when you look at the economy as a whole, we see sectors of the economy with unprecedented low rates of unemployment. If you have a bachelor's degree, you're at 2.1% unemployment. If you're in a management occupation, that's about 2%. If you're in business and financial, you only have about 1% unemployment. If you're in Silicon Valley and you're a software developer, Silicon Valley has been at full employment for technical roles for the last several years. And so the economy is basically saying that in most cases, 98% of the cases, people in those job categories that want jobs can find them. Now, last year we saw the highest hit rate the highest quit rate for existing employees, and that was about 26%. And that's up 2% from just a couple of years ago. So what that means is roughly on a monthly basis, 3.2, 3.4, 3.6 million people are switching jobs because they can. And you can understand this when you look at the unemployment rate and how many people are switching. And there's an inverse relationship, meaning that as the unemployment rate goes down, the voluntary job switch rate goes up. And in that inverse relationship, what you see is the more opportunity that emerges in the market, the more people are willing to try new things, the more they're willing to jump from what they're doing now to a new opportunity. And so as we see unemployment continue to go down, we're going to see this voluntary turnover rate continue to go up. But why are people switching? And I think it's important to understand the reasons behind that. So, in all the studies, there's always a debate, are people switching for money? Chances are money is a part of it at some point, but it's not the only driver about why people switch a job. So the first thing is people are looking for opportunities where they can do their best work. Organizations that are engaging, organizations where they see that the work they want to do, their values, the organization's values, their passions, what the organization needs done, all of those things align, and that's really important. We're seeing in this economy that work-life balance, however you define it, is really important. And so companies that invest in the well-being of their employees, I think, have an advantage. Flexibility is an advantage. In fact, people would be willing in some cases to take a little bit less money for more flexibility. Now, it's not to say if you have a lot of flexibility, you start talking down salaries, because that won't work in this economy either. But to be aware of the fact that flexibility is really important and that there are people that would be willing to make a trade for that. So there was a study that was done by Tammy Erickson. This was 2009, 2010. And she asked people, would you rather have $10,000 more pay, or would you rather have more flexibility? And I think the researchers' initial notion was that boomers would like more money and millennials would like more flexibility. And what they found was that across all generations, across all groups in an organization, 56% of the people said that they wanted more flexibility. And I imagine since that time, that we would see that flexibility number go up if we were to resurvey. So people want stability, they want job security, and I think how that translates is I want a place where I can make a contribution, where I can grow, and where I can see my talents used for the benefit of the organization. People do switch for money. I think it's important to have the money conversation for your pay to be competitive, and for people to know that coming to your organization that they're going to receive a very competitive salary. And then people want to work for great brands and great companies, and they want to work with great people. Who they work with is really important, as well as where they work. So what is it they're switching for? What's the big draw in this market? And I just wanted to let you know that the research for all of the market trends is very recent. I kind of closed it off at April 16th. So the research I'm sharing with you is really from about the last 4 to 5 months. And this came to us from CNBC, and it is talking about the trend of remote workers, and that there are 170 companies in the country today that operate virtually, 100% virtually. And that's significantly up from 26 in 2014. And a lot of what's driving the flex jobs and some of the things that you see in flex jobs would be the gig economy, people being able to bid on work where they can do project work, people being able to augment their salary with other opportunities from doing gig economy work. And yet also kind of holding out that there are opportunities in the remote worker space where I could do that all the time if I chose to do that. Another thing, and this is really interesting, and this was reported in the Wall Street Journal on April 16th. So throughout every sector of the economy, you're seeing shortages of technical skills, of people having the right capabilities. And in this particular story, the journal highlighted that companies are going to the market looking for teens to fill these jobs. And in this particular picture, a 14-year-old is helping this aviation company repair its electronics. And so what is going on with unemployment by age group? And traditionally, teenagers have had very high unemployment, looking for summer jobs, being transitory in a number of jobs. And what we're seeing that since 2010, unemployment for teenagers is going down. You can see it's the solid dark blue line. Unemployment for all generations in the workforce is going down, but particularly this teen unemployment is going down. And it's going down because there are more jobs available for teens than just retail or fast food. And what you're seeing is that companies are willing to take a chance on teens. As a matter of fact, Starbucks hired 50,000 people in the 16 to 24-year-old age group, and they found that that age group actually stayed longer than other sectors of the economy. And so that was a very important finding for them, and they're continuing to hire to that age group. So I want to tell you the story of Julian Cornwall. Julian is from Cincinnati, Ohio. And they have had several job fairs in the areas around where he lives, Cincinnati high schools. And companies are being very aggressive to go into schools and attract talent. And they're offering really exciting employment opportunities, like come work for us and we will train you, we'll develop you, we'll give you skills, and the whole time that you're learning, we will pay you this side. So one of the things that happened to Julian is he was working at JCPenney for $8.57 an hour. He got a job at Meyer Tool for $13 an hour, and by the time he finishes his training, his hourly rate can rise to about $45 an hour. And he gets trained with skills that are immediately marketable in this economy. Another trend that we're seeing is that having a degree is no longer a precursor to apply for every job. As a matter of fact, they're discovering that in a lot of organizations, having a formal 4-year degree doesn't actually influence performance. Enter IBM into this story. So IBM figured out that there is a coming shortage, a huge shortage in IT talent in the marketplace. By 2020, there are going to be over 1 million IT jobs. We will be somewhere between 600,000 plus short of people to fill those jobs. We're just not graduating enough talent. If you're assuming that everybody needs a 4-year degree for those jobs, we're short 600,000 people within the next 18 months. And IBM said, well, you know what? We have to change this. We have to change our perception of how this works. And if you're interested, there's a great video from November 7th of 2017 with Ginny Rometty talking about this. So enter the idea that it's about skills and capabilities and not just a degree. And what IBM has seen is that for the skills they need for software developers and IT roles, you don't have to have that formal degree, but you do have to have some skills and capabilities. Like you could have taught yourself. You could have gone to coding camp. You could have been just interested in this and started playing with it on your own, and you've developed a lot of expertise as a result of that. And so if you have the skills and capabilities, however you got them, they're interested in talking to you. They intend to hire 25,000 people that have skills and capabilities but don't necessarily have a college degree, and they are going to invest $1 billion over the next 4 years in developing people to fill jobs at IBM. And they're really invoking a kind of process or an approach that I call hiring the almost ready. If you find people that have the right skills and the right capabilities, but maybe can't exactly fully fill the jobs you have today, but with some training and some development they could, hiring them, developing them, and then having them fill your open jobs is really a great strategy, because those folks tend to be more loyal to the organization and they tend to stay longer. So hiring the almost ready, finding the right skills, right capabilities, has huge implications for today's job market. Now, you look at the market today and you say, well, how long could this last? How long could this shortage last? And the answer is something that I think no one on this call wants to hear, which is we're talking 2050. We're talking 32 more years at minimum. And so I want to recommend that you take a look at something if you haven't. And I have just a couple of excerpts here. There was a study published by the Wall Street Journal that became an interactive piece that they put online. It's called Demographic Destiny. You can find it by just Googling a Demographic Destiny Wall Street Journal, and you'll get into the interactive information, and they give you research from all over the world. But what they found in the study is that the labor pool globally is shrinking, and it is going to be an inhibitor on company growth. When you watch the news on any given day, and I watch the news I travel a lot, so I turn on the news first thing in the morning, and you often hear these stories about, we're going to create 50 million more jobs, or there was a number of 22 million more jobs. And the first thing that popped into my mind was, where are you going to find those people? We have about 7.2 million jobs right now that are unfilled. So if you add more to that, where are those people going to come from? Demographic Destiny basically lays out this argument in all of this detail as a global problem. And they see it as a hindrance on GDP growth, and it will be for the next several years to come. And so if you're looking to add a lot of roles in your organization, you're looking to expand globally, you really have to think about creative ways to do that, because the available talent pool is shrinking in the global economy. Enter innovation. Enter, we want to talk to people in new ways. So this was a really interesting story that was talked about in terms of how the manufacturing companies are going to find new workers. It was from the Wall Street Journal in December of 2017. So I'm sure those of you that are parents that are on the call have been to Parents' Night at school to look at what college, university your child may want to go to. In order to be competitive, manufacturing companies are saying, you know what, we can have Parents' Night too. So they invite parents in to the organization, and they talk about what it would be like to join the organization, get the training in a particular skilled trade or particular area, be paid while you're doing that. And they have a great tagline for this. They call it being part of the next generation of makers. So if you're a parent and you're thinking, what might my child do? What might they be interested in? Going and hearing a story about how after high school, your son or daughter could have a job, get trained in something, decide what they want to do, and be learning at the same time becomes a really compelling value proposition. And the whole notion of making a contribution to the economy by being the next generation of maker is a very compelling value proposition to parents and new employees. So I love the fact, and I put the excerpt of this story here just so you could get a flavor for what this is. I love the fact that organizations are creating the next generation of manufacturing employees. We are still a country that makes things, and we still have lots of opportunities for people to learn how to make things. And there is, and the message here is, you know, we want to create options for jobs in this economy, and here's a great option for your son or daughter. The next thing, and you may think this is sort of odd, but it really caught my eye as I read the story, because employees can come from the most unlikely places. So this was a story, it was in the Washington Post in January, and it was about a garage door company that needed people to fix the doors, and they're not available. They couldn't find people to fill these jobs. So they went to a local prison. The prison was fairly recently built, I think. And they found talented people there that could do these jobs, that could do these repairs and work for them in, I would say, a pretty unique arrangement. And so the story that caught my eye was the best employee in this organization was at the prison that the company owner never wanted to have built. So when you look at that, you say, employees can come from the most unlikely places in this economy. The next place they're coming from is Puerto Rico. I don't know how many of you kind of listen on an ongoing basis to what's going on in Puerto Rico, but they recently had yet another huge power outage where most of the island was without power for several days. And so things are still very difficult there. People in Puerto Rico are U.S. citizens. They can come over to Florida and apply for jobs as nurses, as healthcare workers. And so people are going to job fairs where Puerto Rican citizens are applying for jobs and hiring that way. And then they're helping the employees make the transition back to the mainland, providing some housing support, some moving support, so they can draw from this pool of workers. And that's working a lot in healthcare, and particularly in the South in healthcare, but it's also working for other job categories as well. Another thing to look at is, how can I build talent pipelines with new college hires, with new grads, with the early career hires? And in my work with Oracle, I get to look at what are the great practices that are going on in the market today. And I ran across a great practice from Parker Dewey. Parker Dewey helps early career hires get work, do work, and hopefully at some point these turn into jobs. And how it works is, as an employer, you get to try out people on a project. And so you post a project on Parker Dewey and say, I need someone to come in and help us with a marketing problem or help us with a marketing campaign. And it's a 6-week or an 8-week job, and you get to try out the worker. You get to see, are they a fit for the culture? Can they do the work? And oftentimes people do get hired full-time that way. Sometimes the projects are just what they are. It's an 8-week piece of work and we don't have a full-time job, but you have an opportunity to look at someone's work before you hire them. The person has an opportunity to gain more important experience before they get that full-time job. And it's a win-win for both the person that's an early career hire and the organization. And it's really simple. You go to their site and it's like, either I need somebody or I have talent and I can do various projects and various work. It's a great way to build your early career hire pipeline. There was a great story in Forbes, and this was in February of just this year, and it was really interesting because I read the cover and I read the lead in for the story. I'm like, well, how is this a surprise to anybody that it made the cover? But in case it is a surprise, let me just reiterate it. What they found is that if you pay people well, you actually are able to hire more people. They're more likely to stay, and you're more likely to get results. So the whole story was about well-paid workers get bigger profits. They're more committed to the organization. They feel they've been treated fairly. There is less turnover overall in the organization. They're happier employees. They focus on making a contribution. They're more likely to give you discretionary effort. So the story about paying people well and taking care of them, and by taking care, I mean being fair, paying people fairly, creating a great culture where they want to work is really important. Another thing that we're seeing is that flexible benefits make a difference. And the way to think about this is not necessarily what are the benefits for everybody, but people need to look at, I have choices and that I can actually design benefits that suit me and my needs, where I am in my family life cycle, where I am in my own career, where I am in my own life. And that's a really important draw in today's economy. The next important draw, again, this is sort of a take on what IBM is doing, is to really focus on development and learning. And at Accenture, they're investing $1.4 billion over the next 4 years to teach people about new technology, to teach people about cloud and how cloud works, as well as other new technologies. And so they're hiring people and investing in them early in their career at Accenture, and then continuing to invest in them over time. There's a notion of, how do I create stars in my organization? And in this article from Forbes, they basically said, well, if you treat people like stars, you grow stars. And so this organization, NVIDIA, essentially has this philosophy that we treat people like stars. We want to contribute to their career and their development. And in turn, they contribute to the organization in a big way. So their turnover is only 5%, which is unheard of in this economy. And they have outperformed the S&P 500 by 224%. And so what you see is that treating people well, investing in people, growing them has a big payoff. And that was really the point of the Forbes article, that if you really want to win in this talent economy, you need a winning strategy that pays people well, treats them well, develops them, helps them with learning, and helps them grow in the organization. And my little cartoon on the side there, the turnovers are killing us. First of all, that cracks me up. And second of all, turnover over time just creates such a drain on the organization. When people leave, they take other people with them. So that's the first thing. The next thing is the cost of turnover is astronomical if you can't really slow it down. And I'll be talking about that at the end of the presentation. So think about the things that are important to your people and look at how you can deliver those in your organization. So what about winning in today's market, and what does that look like? So we have to look at, when you go to the market and you start saying, I need to hire this talent, you need to understand what that market's made up of. And this data comes from LinkedIn, and they just have a really great way of dividing it so you can understand the various groups in the market. What's interesting is, with all the switching going on, there is sometimes a belief that everybody's switching, everybody's looking for a job. Well, the reality is only about 19% of the people are aggressively looking for a job. And you can see that just about everybody else is in some form of passive, some form of, I'm just kind of exploring, I might put some feelers out into the market. I would be somewhat looking if somebody contacted me with the right thing. The employees that you're going to hire today, chances are coming from the passive seeker. They're coming from the passive seeker, and they may not be interested in any one thing enough to put a resume out in the market. But if you reach out to them, if you have some compelling things to say, if they get interested in your organization, they are willing to switch jobs. So how is it that you reach these passive job seekers? And I wanted to share with you a model that Talemetry has that I think is just really effective. So think about HR with the mind of a marketer. Think about talent acquisition with the mind of a marketer. Marketers are great at finding customers, nurturing the customer relationship, and then getting those customers to buy the product or service over time. And that's really what Talemetry does in terms of recruitment marketing. So essentially, there are ways, the way to think about, where you are in this continuum is that you can just do it on an ad hoc basis. Like if there's something that comes up, we'll employ these tools and these skills. The second thing is that you don't really have a cohesive plan in recruitment marketing, but you're getting there, you're developing it, you're asking the right questions, you're beginning to do the right things. And then you have integrated and efficient recruitment marketing, which is you have some automation, it's operational, you can expand across channels and so forth. And it leads to having a really advanced approach to recruitment marketing. It looks a lot like what retailers do to attract customers, and it uses those same principles and those same skills. If you think about how this works in terms of, the integrated levels of recruitment marketing, Branded Hall Group did some really great work that they shared where they talked about when you have an approach to this and when you have recruitment marketing capabilities, it actually leads to better results. You have better customer retention, 49% better. You have better new hire engagement. You have better new hire retention. You have better time to hire, meaning a shortened time to hire, and that you have a higher quality of hire. So I have to talk about social because social is really part of the recruitment landscape and very aggressively part of the recruitment landscape today. And I want to just introduce the concept of if you're not doing anything in social or if you're underutilizing social, why it's so important. Because social is built on, in one way, it's built on how many people know how many people and how can we tap those people. And with 74% of the jobs today being filled by people who know people, it's important to look at how you can leverage social. So think about, and just for the sake of example, an organization with 1,000 employees, and those 1,000 employees each know 150 people. Before you know it, you have a potential pool you can tap into of 150,000 contacts. And of course, it goes up exponentially from there if your organization's larger, or gets adjusted downward if you have a smaller organization. But you still have this 100 employees, 150 connections to 15,000 contacts kind of equation going on in the background. So think about social. Social also works with mobile. And it's not just running to have your recruiting process on a mobile device, it's having it optimized for a mobile device. And let me tell you what that looks like. So have you ever tried to do something on your phone or your tablet and you get to the site and the site page is too big for you to see on the phone? So you're scrolling all around to try to get a picture of what the whole page looks like. Or you're trying to read an article and the article can't size for the mobile device that you're on, and you're trying to read it like 2 to 3 inches at a time. Mobile optimized means that what you put out there is readable on a mobile device. It's readable on a phone. It's readable on a tablet. If you're putting job specs out there, if you're having a recruitment process, if you're uploading resumes, if you're filling out applications, it's actually built to be done on a mobile device. And one way to know or to kind of look at if you're mobile optimized, if you have a high fallout rate, meaning people have come to your site, they started applying for the job, and they do what I call in retail abandoning the cart. By the way, there's kind of a research number floated out there that 67% of mobile applications abandon the cart. Chances are that that has something to do with whether or not you're mobile optimized, whether or not people easily can do that work on a mobile device. And given the fact that about 96% of the people in the world today want to look for a job on a mobile device, mobile optimized is really important. And it's simple things that you think like, well, that makes so much sense. So one of the simple things is when I leave the process and come back, I don't have to scroll through all the screens again. It actually takes me to where I left off. Very important. I can see the job from any screen. Very important. It's easy for me to see it. I don't have to scroll all around because it's not appropriate for a mobile device. So you have to think about having things mobile optimized. And then think about the power of social. So social isn't just about joining a number of social sites. It is about understanding how people show up in the social universe and how you can connect with them, how they can get value by connecting with you. So if you think about, I want to use social tools to recruit people, you have to think about what people, who are they, where are they, and what matters to them? What are their interests? If they're passive and they're not looking for a job right now, you have to interest them in a different conversation. Sometimes what people do is they put great projects out there and they ask people to chime in on these great projects. Some people put projects out there where if you're a contract employee, you can actually bid on the project and learn more about it and then eventually get a short-term role working on that project. You want to know what people that are interested in talking to you, what they value, what they're passionate about, why they should connect with you. There was really this whole notion of passion and value and why that's important. Yesterday, there was a really interesting article that was put on my LinkedIn feed. And it talked about how it's not just about a job anymore. It's just not about the money anymore. It is about passion. And what people are passionate about is driving career choices and driving career success. And so understanding the people that you want to go after and what they value is important. You have to kind of give them why you should connect with us, give them that value proposition and foster that connection over time. You can't expect with social tools that you're going to go out there, people are going to see something once and then say, oh yeah, I want to join this organization. Social is a conversation. It's not a one-time hit. So you need to think about what kind of conversation do I want to have in the market and who do I want to have it with? Now, it's important to understand in this passive job economy that all the things that you do with social and mobile can make a huge difference. So think about just what happens when you send a job to somebody's inbox. And we all get them. We all get Indeed. We all get Career Builder. We all get these job ticklers like, have you thought about joining this organization? Or you get tons of these from LinkedIn. And they'll say, 10 other people like you were interested in this job, and here are jobs you might be interested in. That all is making a huge difference in the passive job economy. So 74% of the people are actually reading those things, which is amazing. They then visit the company site to learn about careers at that company. 72% do. 67% will browse a job board just because you sent them something. 64% also browse other career opportunities, perhaps in professional networks. And then of those 45% apply for the job, 43% actually have uploaded a resume to send or attach to the job application. And then think about the power of mobile to reach the passive candidate. So again, these are people not looking for a job. However, the right word, the right opportunity at the right time causes curiosity, which causes me to click, which causes me to explore a little bit more. So this passive candidate pool, 60% of them actually view what you send to them. 62% visit the company site. 53% browse. 58% on other networks, professional networks, career opportunities on social networks. And 24% of these people that were never looking for a job actually apply for a job. Now, getting people in is only the first part of looking at how you create this compelling value proposition where people want to join and where they want to stay. In fact, it used to be that the metrics for recruiting were about days to fill a job, the types of candidates, how many candidates we get from different sites, and what are our best feeder pools. There's now a move kind of in the discipline to say that we ought to measure recruiting not by just who joins, but how long they stay. And the how long they stay part is all about how you can create an engaged workforce that's committed to your organization. So let's look at why engagement is so important. So engaging people, having people that are excited about being there, having people that make a significant contribution to your organization has a huge impact on business performance. In fact, when you engage and enable people, you increase employee performance by 40%. You increase customer satisfaction by 18%. And it multiplies financial success by 4.5 times, and it decreases turnover. So people that join your organization, that are committed to the organization, or you have a lot of right things in the culture around values and purpose, help you make more money, help you satisfy customers, and they're less likely to leave. So the benefits of engaged employees really talk about the impact that those people have on your customers and on your business and about what you're trying to do in the marketplace. So they have a huge impact on customer service. And if you don't think that that's true, think about the last time you called the call center and the person that picked up the phone kind of let you know in so many uncertain terms that they could care less what your problem was. And then contrast that to the call you make where somebody picks it up and asks if there's anything else they can do to help. Were you happy with the service you received? I found myself yesterday, this is just yesterday, where someone called me and wanted to help me with something. And I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I was a customer of this organization. And instead of calling and say, oh, here's the issue and, I don't know if we can solve it, they called me back. They said, we have solved this for you. Is there anything else we can do to help? I was floored. And the person on the phone was amazing at customer service. So those engaged employees really impact your customers, whether or not they're going to come back and avail themselves of services or products from your company. Engaged employees recommend their company. They recommend their companies to their friends. They recommend it to the general market. It's one of those things where people have a bad employee experience. 69% of those people actually go and tell everybody I had a bad experience. If they have a good experience, they recommend your company as a place to work. And 78% of engaged employees recommend their company. Only 13% of disengaged employees would recommend their company. And in this market where connection matters and people are looking for advice about what are great places to join, having engaged people that can connect with the market and bring other people in because they're happy makes a huge difference. Now, how do you actually bring engagement into the here and now? How does it become part of what people do every day? And I'm not talking about engagement as a survey. I'm not talking about engagement training or getting survey results and teaching managers how to respond to survey results. I'm talking about the things that you do every day. That engagement should elevate human potential. And another cool thing I discovered in the market in my research over the last year is that there are ways to do that in real time, that engagement can be about personal and professional development, that it can happen every day for every employee in your organization. And when that happens, it is about elevating human potential. So I want to tell you a story of Pro Habits. And this is something that Pro Habits did for UL. So Pro Habits, and by the way, there are big buckets of Pro Habits. There are Pro Habits for sales. There are Pro Habits for software implementation. This is really about taking the actions that drive success at an individual and collective level and connecting people on a daily basis. So pro focus, productivity, pro mindfulness, pro empowerment, pro teamwork. And I think the most popular has been pro focus. So how it works is in the morning, you get an email. By the way, I tried this. It was massively cool. So I got this email. I was working on pro focus. I wanted to try it out. And in the morning, it gave me some information about focus. And then it gave me some activities, and it asked if I was going to commit to these activities for the day. The end of the day, the right-hand memo was, did you do this today? If the focus activity was on collaboration, Pamela, did you collaborate, and what did you do today? And that was really interesting. If you want a little aside story on Pro Focus, it was very interesting. One of the days it sent me a note, and it said that if you want to have better focus, you need to refresh your workspace. You need to think about clearing. You need to think about fresh. You need to think about making it more exciting. So for some reason that I don't know what possessed me at the moment I read that, I was like, I need to paint the house. I work from home. So it's like, I need to refresh the paint colors. I need to paint the house. So I called Scotty the painter, who is fabulous, And he came, he did an assessment of what needed to be done. Net, 2 days later, the house was painted and ProFocus was right. It was clear, it was fresh. It was really exciting. I was very excited about the space. Now, I'm not saying all of these messages are about painting the house. That was only my very odd interpretation of the message, but it was helpful to me. It was really, really helpful to me, and I really liked the new colors. The evening email asks you about what you did, asks you to give feedback. And as a leader, as a manager, as a team, you have dashboards. What are people working on? What have they committed to? And what have they completed? So because I thought this was such a novel approach, I started tracking this, and I started tracking the research. And amazing things are happening when people get involved with this. Like, they're finding and discovering innovative ways to respond to customers. People are helping each other in a more collaborative and collective way. You're seeing huge impacts on problem solving that are having real material impact on the bottom line and on profitability. And it's all from a really simple approach of giving people the information for the day on a development issue or on a habit and having them activate that day. People are more engaged. People are more connected to the organization. They're more likely to recommend, and the organizations are more profitable, the projects more successful. By the way, I didn't put it in here, but if you're interested in finding out more about ProHabits, I think if you just go to prohabits.com, you can get more information. But it's amazing, and it's a great way to build an engaged culture, because culture matters, and it matters a lot. So this data actually comes from a study that was done by Duke University and the School of Business there, and they were looking at, does culture matter? Does it matter to the business? And if we invest in culture, is that going to pay off for us? Now, when the economy is tight like this, when jobs are plentiful and you're trying to attract people, companies start making investments in culture. And if you ask CEOs what's important, you'll see over the last several years in the top 5, you see culture and our ability to attract talent. So 92% believe that investing in culture, strengthening in culture would improve the value of their company. They say that 78% say that culture can make their company more valuable, that culture is a driver of company value. And what we know is that there are cultures that are stickier, that attract great talent and hang on to it. And those cultures are the way that they are successful in attracting and retaining people, because first and foremost, they live their values and they demonstrate their values. Much like the Forbes article, they create stars by how they treat people. And that's very valuable, not only in this economy, it should be the right thing to do in any economy. So what are people looking for from work today? You have to look at what would they join a company for and why. And this comes from a Mercer study that was delivered at the end of 2017. Well, people want fair pay. I don't think that's a shock to anybody on this call. They want opportunities for growth and development. They like leaders who have focus and who can actually translate that focus into that compelling value proposition of what we do every day. They want to work with great people. One of the things I've always thought about my career at Oracle is that I feel that every room I walk into is a smart room, and that's important to me. So people want to work with other people that are exciting to them and challenging to them, and where they can learn from each other. People want career opportunity. They want career path. They want opportunities to grow, not just for the job that they're in, but for the jobs they may want in the future. This whole notion of having pay transparent is such an issue in the marketplace today. We see all sorts of lawsuits across the economy of, pay transparency, and you see, gender transparency in pay and so forth as being really important. And then they want flexibility. Not a shock to anyone, they want more flexibility. So what about the work environment? What do you have to invest in there? Well, collaboration is important, and it's really beyond collaboration. To me, it's like, I want to be able to work anywhere, anytime with anyone. I want to be connected, and I want to have that flexibility to connect in the moment of the work. It's not just during certain times, but work is no longer a function of place. It's a function of accountability. It's a function of delivering work. And so having the tools and the capability to deliver that for your workforce is really important. I want to be in a place, people talk about, I want to be in a place where they invest in my wellness, where they care about me as a person, where they care about my personal development as well as my professional development. I want to be in a culture that's inclusive, where, there's no like in-group and out-group, where we're all pulling the same direction together, where there's, people talk about where there's not any favoritism, where there's not this nepotism, where we all have a shot at doing great work. I want to be in an organization where there's internal mobility. And if you think about the fact that you're not going to get as much talent perhaps externally, having a focus on internal mobility is really important, meaning how will people grow their careers and how do they get from point A to point B? I want to be in a place where they understand me, they help me, get the jobs that are right for me, they help me have the right career experiences. All of that creates an environment and a culture that's very compelling. So what are the key trends? The Mercer kind of boiled it down and said, well, what are the key trends you have to pay attention to? Well, you have to look at how you attract talent, which is really, the wild and crazy times. How do you do that in wild and crazy times? You have to look at leaders. Can you build a leadership pipeline that allows you to grow and sustain the business? Do you have a way for looking at potential? Potential for new opportunities, potential for learning, potential for growth. Do you have a way to build skills across your workforce, build skills and capabilities? Do you have a way to support employees' growth? And can you focus on engagement? Do you focus on engagement in real ways, not surveys, but the work? How to engage people in the work, how to engage people with each other, how to engage people with your customers. Why is all this important? And I want to leave you with the so what money slide. This is the great money slide. If you think about replacing an employee, and by the way, these numbers have been pretty stable over the last several years, it involves two things. You have to replace somebody, so you have to go through the hiring process, which takes time and money. The average cost per hire, where you have to have managers interview, you have to have jobs posted in the market, you have to scan the market, you have to have people apply, all of that. If you think about that's just filling a job, that part of it, on average, $3,976. If you think about you have to bring someone up to full productivity, they joined your company and they're learning and they then get to full productivity, that time is going to cost you about $3,000. So all in, you're into it for $6,976. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, because what you haven't accounted for in that $6,976 number in terms of cost of turnover is how many days is that job vacant, or you're not serving customers perhaps in a complete way, where there's perhaps lost opportunity for serving customers or for getting work done. How long does it take to fill the job? What is your average revenue generated per employee? And when you put all that together, kind of on the lost productivity cost side, it's really simple. $6,976 could balloon up to $120,000. So the turnovers, back to the cartoon, the turnovers are killing us. And looking at your cost of churn and understanding the impact cost from just the basic, we're replacing somebody and teaching them how to do the job, to what about the lost productivity? What about the lost opportunity to serve customers? For most organizations, that turnover cost is somewhere between $6,976 and $120,900 per person. And understanding what you can do to reduce those costs will create a compelling culture for your organization. I always end my webcast with live long and prosper. Yes, I was a Trekkie. I guess I am a Trekkie, a fan of Big Bang Theory. And I appreciate you joining us today. If you'd like to ask questions, we'll have a moment where you can do that. If you want to contact me, you can reach out to pamela.stroko@oracle.com. at oracle.com. If you want to get more information on the tools that Talemetry offers, you can go to their website and take a look at their portfolio of tools. So with that, Carrie, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Pamela. They've given us all a lot to think about in how we can attract and then retain great talent. If anybody does have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the question box. We do have a couple that have come in, Pamela.
Okay.
First question was, do you have any tips on how to engage passive job seekers?
Well, given the fact that most of the market is a passive job seeker, you know, if you think about only 19% of the people are really looking for a job, you're talking about how do I engage the market? And I think it's all the tools that I talked about. You know, first of all, having a conversation with people that's not necessarily about filling a job. Building relationships is important. Building relationships with your own employees is important because you have people in your company that could just as easily fill jobs. So passive job seekers, go where they go to conferences, go to where they're having conversations, tap your own networks of people, you know, where people are having conversations. If you want a suggestion for who might be great for this job in this location, oftentimes people will chime in and say, my friend does this and this and this, and they might be interested. So tap who they know. So passive job seekers are about relationships, they're about connection, they're about conversation, they're about shared interests. And then look at your managers, and I think this is really important. Every company has managers that go to events. They go to professional events, they go to workshops, they go to conferences, and ask them to begin mining those relationships at those events. Who did you meet? Who did you like? What did you think about whether or not they could ever be a good fit for our organization? How can we tap the network that you have built, Mr. Manager or Miss Manager, and think about how you can build networks of relationships. And, you know, again, part of being a passive job seeker is you never know when you're going to get the thing in your inbox that might be of interest. So always be connecting with people in real ways that puts things out there that are interesting to them.
Great. Another question that's come in, Pamela, is what are the best ways to use social in our recruiting strategies?
Well, and by the way, I just looked at the time. This is our last question for today, but I'm happy to take questions offline. So how do you include social? So I would look at, you know, social isn't just going to one site. It's really having a presence. You have to have a social strategy. Where do you want to show up? How do you want to show up? And who do you want to go there? And so, again, having conversations, and one of the things I'd seen that I thought was really well done was with a science company. What they did was they wanted to form a social network of scientists to have conversations about real projects this company was working on. So they created a site that you could go to and you could learn about the great projects. In some cases, you could actually apply to work on those projects. But what they did is they put a topic out there. They might put out a research paper that they did. They might put out a research position, and then people chimed in. And it became this really great ongoing discussion that the marketplace, people in the market, wanted to participate in. Social is about what you put out there in the relationship with the marketplace. And so it could be something like that. It could be people do contests, they do gamification in social, and they put things out there of, you know, who's interested in this, and then there might be some things to solve. You know, so there's lots of ways to show up in the social universe. People show up in the social universe in LinkedIn all the time. They put out papers, they put out ideas, they put out blogs, and then people respond and start another conversation. Remember that because it's social and because it happens in sort of like the virtual universe and maybe not face to face, it doesn't mean that it's any less real, and it doesn't mean that it's any less connected. And people want to have real connections in that. So you have to nurture your social strategy. You have to have real people nurture that strategy to make real connections with what's going on in the sites that you're supporting.
That's great, Pamela. Thanks so much for taking those last few questions and for all of the information and insight that you've shared with our audience today.
Great, thanks so much, and thank you everybody for joining us.